VikesNow, Dustin Baker. It's the birthday edition. This dude is 39 years old. If you care about that kind of thing, was born at 7:11 a.m. 39 years ago today. But let's jump into the Viking stuff. We're going to go over the surprises over the Week 5 triumph over Chicago, which puts the Vikings at a 4-1 record, alone atop the NFC North for at least 2 weeks because of the tiebreakers. Even if they lost the Dolphins and the Packers won, they have a bye week, and they would remain on top for at least 2 weeks. It's the little things, isn't it? But yeah, let's figure out how we got there with the noteworthy stuff that we didn't see coming against the Bears at US Bank Stadium. So it was actually strange to play a meaningful game against the Bears in that stadium. That hasn't happened since the clunker in 2018. And generally speaking, the Vikings usually play at home against the Bears at the end of the year. But the NFL did the Vikings a solid for now because you have to pay the piper and go to Soldier Field near the end of the season. I think it is the last game of the season, isn't it? Or is New Year's Day? I think it's the last game of the season. I digress. Let's do the surprising stuff. The first one is Christian Darrisaw. He is now, according to Pro Football Focus, the third best tackle, right or left, in the NFL, behind Andrew Thomas of the Giants and Rashawn Slater, who was injured and will, unfortunately for his sake, fall off the PFF qualifying snap count. So if Darrisaw keeps this up, you have employed on your Vikings team the second best tackle in the world. And we've seen enough now between the rookie season and a little bit over a quarter of this season that it's not a Khalil-ish outlier. Christian Darrisaw is here to stay. It was a marvelous draft pick by Rick Spielman. Too bad the trade, with Kellen Mond and Wyatt Davis really didn't end up meaning anything. However, getting Darrisaw to solidify that part of the line for the first time since Bryant McKinnie, when he departed in 2011, this is a big damn deal. Christian Darrisaw is the real deal, and along with his cohort, Brian O'Neill, and an offensive-minded operation, believe it or not, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, even the pass protection, is pretty good. Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradbury, who I'll touch on in a bit, and Ed Ingram are not gangbusters. They are not Darrisaw-ish or O'Neill-ish in the middle, but they're decent, and they're not causing Minnesota to be at the bottom of the pack, which is usually what happens by this point at any season or at any point at all in any NFL season for the Zimmer brand of Vikings pass protection. Christian Darrisaw is a true blue, becoming a household name left tackle, and all of that shit from the summer about Trent Williams comparisons were true. Even Trent Williams said that, yeah, he kind of looks like me coming up here. So you can get excited if you're not already about Darrisaw, because barring injury, he is the real deal, and he will be expensive in, 3-4 years? You have to pay him a lot. But take solace in knowing that the bookends of the Vikings offensive line are young, good, and finally, you can cross that off your list. The next one is more in the details, is the third down conversion percentage of the Vikings. Heading into the Bears game, I post the offensive stats on Twitter and on Vikings territory, and defensive stats as well every week right about this time. And heading into the Bears game, the Vikings ranked 28th in offensive conversion percentage on third down, which is shitty. Well, now they rank 7th in the NFL. Well, how the hell did that happen? They went 12 for 15 on third downs against the Bears. It was a get-right game, even though it ended up being a squeaker. Statistically, it made the offense look really snazzy, and third down was there's no better example of it. Cousins and company were unbelievably efficient on third down, and guess what? That's why they won. If they had been up to their usual tricks, being 28th in the league, which is 5th worst, they wouldn't have beat the Bears at all. They probably would have got their asses handed to them. But they fixed that, at least for a week. I'm sure it was a point of emphasis, and now suddenly the Vikings have a top 10 third down conversion percentage offense. That's how it kind of flips sometimes when offenses, or when you only have 4 or 5 game sample size. In that same spirit, number 3 is the red zone efficiency. That was a problem too. I believe Minnesota was 25th in red zone efficiency, scoring touchdowns when they got inside the 20-yard line heading into the Bears game. Well, now they went 4 for 4, and I think that crept up to 14th or so, or maybe it was 10th. I can't remember, but it was in the top half of the NFL because of 4 trips to the red zone, converted by Cousins and his running backs, and even the nifty throw. Who did he get that one to? I can't recall. Still, the red zone prowess finally arrived along with the third down, and that's why the Vikings won. The next is about the Bears. The only reason that game tightened up from 21-3, all of a sudden the Bears took the lead from 22-21, was because of Justin Fields' speed. It was just like Trubisky of yesteryear. The guy wasn't very good, but the Vikings couldn't wrap him up on third downs, and he'd take off and scamper, and then, it's a brand new set of downs for the Bears. Fields did the same thing, but he did it even juicier. He's a lot faster than Trubisky, and he extended drives and plays, of course, and had that one Michael Vickish run negated because of his speed. So not a very good passer yet, or perhaps never will be, but he's got that swiftness in his toolkit, and according to ESPN's QBR metric, which is kind of flimsy at times, some folks can't stand it, some folks swear by it, his QBR of 70-something blah, blah, blah turned out to be the best QBR the Vikings have faced this year. I don't know, did Fields feel like the best quarterback they've played all year? No, Jalen Hurts probably was, but according to ESPN QBR, Fields had the best quarterback performance of anybody that the Vikings have seen this year. It's probably because he extended those plays with that speed. But I don't know how long they'll stick with Fields. You'll have to always remember that Ryan Poles and his crew has no loyalty to Fields. They didn't draft him, so we shall see if he's the quarterback of the future. But the Vikings have the hassle of putting up with Fields' speed, just kind of like they did with Trubisky, but this dude's even faster. Next, number 5 is the offensive creativity. I put it out there as a surprise because it was a necessity in order to beat the Bears. For the first 2 quarters, it felt like a perk. You're doing all this cool stuff, all this motion, but then the game got all close and they needed even more. So a couple plays come to mind. They tried that flea flicker that turned out to be a weird check down. At least the thought was there. Then they had pass to Justin Jefferson, who lateraled it and then turned around and threw it to Dalvin Cook, who scampered for 10 or 12 yards. That play was nifty. We didn't usually see that kind of stuff. In fact, never that particular play with Zimmer. And then the touchdown, not the go-ahead touchdown because that was Kirk Cousins' baby, the quarterback sneak, but the one with Rager. I'm sure if you're on Vikings Twitter at all, you would have seen it by now. It was an unbelievably creative play with a lot of motion and misdirection. It looked like Dalvin Cook was going to get the snap, but then you give it to a Speedster and Rager. So through 5 weeks, it's getting more creative. It was already, the first drive of 2022 was already a little bit more creative than how we used to have things because we used to focus on defense. Bless their hearts. It worked a lot of the time. But now you're getting more wrinkles of what the offense can be. You're going to use guys like Rader, who traded a 4th rounder for, and get more guys involved. And in that same spirit, I'll jump ahead to Irv Smith. He had his first, good, decent game of 2022. He had 4 catches for 42 yards, but more importantly, he didn't have any gaffes. He didn't have any drops. He didn't do anything dumb. That Eagles drop that he had will forever be seared into my memory, and it will take a Herculean effort for him to erase that from my memory because it was such a crucial drop. But, dudes deserve second chances, forgiveness, and all that. He's already got it from me, but he had a decent game. He was there on 3rd downs. He had those 4 catches, and he looked the part. And I guess the biggest takeaway about Irv is that he didn't do anything silly. So you don't have to rely on the Ellefson and Munt show, especially if you have Irv, who's been forecasted every year since 2019 to be the next big thing. Kudos to Irv. He looked the part. Let's see if it continues. The second to last surprise of the game is a rolling holy shit on Garrett Bradbury. The guy is suddenly good. It's not that he just doesn't suck anymore, because we've been asking for that. I've been asking for it. You guys have been doing it in unison, is we just want him to be decent so the rest of the offensive line doesn't crumble. Well, he, through 5 games, has surpassed that. All of a sudden, he's a top 10 pass blocking center habitually throughout his career. He started in 2019. Same draft as Irv Smith. His pass blocking grade would be like 38 or 37 point blah, blah, blah. Last year was 43.2. Out of nowhere, it's 72.8. Who'da thunk it? during getting the show off the ground in the summer, we had all of these shows about contingency theories, like Chris Reed. Will he be able to play center? Can Austin Schlottman step up? Can they sign J.C. Treader? And we just didn't foresee any situation where Bradbury would be good. We thought with some expertise and some coaching, he could be not miserable. But now, unless he takes a nosedive, which we wouldn't surprise terribly, it's not that Garrett Bradbury is figuring it out. It's that he's actually good now. It's bizarre. So extreme props to him. I don't know specifically who got into his head before or now in a bad or a good way, but he has fundamentally changed. Your eye tests are confirmed. He's playing much better, and he's no longer a joke or a footnote. And that's extremely commendable, and we'll see how long it lasts, because 5 games is enough to start to see trends, and this is a very good version of Garrett Bradbury. And my very last surprise, you couldn't do a very smart or wise football show like this without calling out the quarterback. For 3 straight games, game-winning drives. I know that they were kind of manufactured comebacks because the team in general goes to sleep like clockwork in the third quarter. But the Vikings are 4-1 right now because Kirk Cousins handed the football with the game on the line, drives the team down the field, gets the fourth quarter comeback, bada bing, 4-1 atop the NFC North. The knock on Cousins erroneously for a long time is that he doesn't get it done when it counts. And I often try to search through my soul to figure out why people believe that. Because time and time again, even when the Vikings are 7-9 or 8-9, he's doing his part in the fourth quarter. No quarterback does it every fourth quarter, and you don't do it every drive. Even Rodgers and Mahomes and Brady don't do it every game. But at a reasonable pace, Cousins does it with the rest of them. Drags the team back downfield, usually on the final drive of the game, and scores. Sometimes he took savagery last year because it only led to a field goal attempt, and it's like, all around the league, quarterbacks do that. They get their team in position to win with the field goal. The Ravens on Sunday night. And Kirk did that last year, and then now he's doing it this year, plus a couple touchdown scoring drives. And he's done it 3 straight times in wacky roller coaster, zany games that probably should have been won before they got to that point. But last time I checked, Cousins doesn't play defense, and the defense for this brand of Vikings only gets serious or only gets good in the fourth quarter. It's very strange. Because it's the fourth quarter, we'll take it for now with hopes that it'll get better in the middle of the games. But Cousins is doing exactly what detractors and naysayers have asked of him. It's go win the game when it's on the line, and 3 times in a row he's done that. Now, it just so happens that those 3 game-winning drives were preceded by the turd against the Eagles. But that is what this man does. He has 1 or 1.5 terrible games per season. It will never change. And you'll start to question in that game in those 3 hours, like, why do we even have this guy? And then he rebounds like he has done these last 3 weeks. Incidentally, between week 5 and week 12 is when Cousins always gets his hottest. Look at his game logs. This is the primetime Cousins. That's why we have these things called Kirktober and Kirkvember, is because this is his bread and butter. His money makers are these 2 months. So the Vikings should be able to stack wins here. And I don't know, by the time that he starts to cool off his usual MO around the second week of December, hopefully it'll be something glorious like 10-3. But he's doing the thing, and as a highly paid or an expensive quarterback, you have to call out the good, even when he has those absolute clunkers like he did against the Eagles. I will be back tomorrow with Josh Fry. We'll do both. We'll talk about the Bears win for about 10 minutes and then transition into the Dolphins, who are suddenly 3-2 and are feeling kind of wayward because of quarterback injuries. That's all I got, and Skol, baby.